Thailand's most famous beach was shut down for over 4 years, but now it's reopened to the public once again. So join us as we go in search of the beach. In the year 2000, the world was first introduced to the beach. The film, based on the Alex Garland novel, may have starred a young Leonardo DiCaprio, but the real breakout performance was from its main location, Maya Bay. This secluded beach on the tiny island of Koh Phi Phi Leh suddenly became the world's very definition of paradise. In turn, inspiring a generation of travellers to come to Thailand and see these pure shores for themselves. But in the 2 decades that followed, Maya Bay's continued popularity would come at a massive cost. The whole point of the beach in the Alex Garland novel is that it's a secret and hidden place, but this part of Thailand became anything but that. At the peak of its popularity, Maya Bay welcomed thousands of tourists every single day, until 2018, when it all reached breaking point. In 2008, there were only about 170 daily visitors to Maya Bay, but by 2017, that number had increased to over 3,500. The once secluded beach became overcrowded with tourists, the sea constantly polluted by hundreds of boats with noisy engines. Most worryingly though, under the surface of the water, most of the coral was completely dead, the ecosystem destroyed. So the Thai government made a huge decision. In June 2018, they completely shut down the entire bay to all visitors. But what was meant to be a 4-month regeneration project quickly turned into the best part of 4 years. News of a reopening was constantly pushed further and further back, until finally, it was time. In the story of the beach, that titular shoreline is supposed to be somewhere between Koh Samui and Koh Phangan in the Gulf of Thailand. But the location used in the movie is actually on an island in the Andaman Sea, about 50 kilometers from the coast of Phuket, which is where our journey begins. Hello and welcome to Kata Beach on the island of Phuket. We've spent the last 7 days staying in this area and it is really nice here. But this morning we're heading across the Andaman Sea to check out the Phi Phi Islands for the very first time. It's currently January of 2022 and thanks to the pandemic, places like Phuket and Phi Phi are nowhere near as busy as they normally are during the high season, which is obviously really sad for the local businesses here. But from a selfish point of view for tourists, this is a great time to visit this part of Thailand. And it just so happens that we timed our trip perfectly because Maya Bay reopened to the public on the 1st of this month. So, like I said, this morning we're getting on a ferry to take us over to Koh Phi Phi Don, which is the larger island right next to Maya Bay. So, join us. The journey from Phuket to the Phi Phi Islands is a very well-trodden route. You can even do a day trip to Maya Bay if you're short on time. But the main way to get over there is via the large passenger ferries connecting the 2 destinations up to 3 times a day. Right then, we have made it to the ferry port, which is in Phuket town over on the east side of the island. We took a shared minibus over here, which was included in our ticket price that we booked with a local travel agent in Kata Beach. And now we're checked in and just waiting for a ferry to leave to the Phi Phi Islands, which should go in about 30 minutes. Exciting. The ferry from Phuket takes the best part of 2 hours, a journey that I always avoided taking on previous trips. To be honest, I was always put off by the idea of visiting places like Maya Bay and being confronted by the endless crowds. But over the years, this beach has suffered through a lot more than just over-tourism. Way before the environmental shutdown, there were accusations against the film crew who made the beach, who allegedly damaged the landscape during filming. And then of course, it was hit by the tsunami of 2004, which again did huge damage to the island. But since the shutdown of the bay in 2018, local marine biologists have seen a lot of positive results. Replanting of new species of coral started to work, and rare marine life also began to return. And in a sense, the lack of tourism as a result of the pandemic also helped the island's recovery to continue. But even still, they resisted opening it up to tourists again too soon, which, when you think about it, was a pretty ballsy move. Maya Bay is such a tourism icon, an image so synonymous with Thailand, that keeping it closed off during these pandemic times must have been a tough financial call. So we were just hoping that it had all been worth the wait. I'm not sure if you can hear me. We can already see the silhouettes of the Phi Phi Islands on the horizon. Such an iconic shape. Phi Phi Leh, where you'll find Maya Bay, is actually an uninhabited island, so the tourist ferries actually arrive into the larger, more developed island next door. A place that makes an epic first impression. The whole area here comes under a national park zone, so as you get off the boat you do pay a 20 baht national park fee, but don't let that make you think that the Phi Phi Islands are some sort of final frontier, because the first thing we saw as the ferry pulled into town was a Burger King. Welcome to Phi Phi Don. It's safe to say that Phi Phi Don has been a major tourist destination for decades now, and as soon as you step off the pier, you walk into a sprawling maze of narrow streets that make up the island's main town. In places, the tunnels of activity here feel more like a Middle Eastern souk, thanks to its endless rows of souvenir stalls and dive shops, alongside the many bars and restaurants. You'll also find countless tour agencies here, offering different styles of trips across to the most famous local attraction, which we'll get to very soon. But the island of Phi Phi Don also has plenty of beauty of its own. Right from the centre of town, you can get a better perspective over it all by climbing up the steep steps to a couple of different viewpoints, looking right down onto the island below. The town itself mainly sits on that long, skinny sandbar, with Tonsai Bay on one side, which is the main transport hub for ferries and boat trips, and on the other side you have the shallow waters of Lo Dalum Beach, which is a great spot for some bars and sunset views. Overall, there was a nice buzz about certain sections of the town, but much like Phuket, where we had just come from, there were some very quiet corners too, especially when it came to nightlife venues. Just another reminder of what the pandemic has done to even the most famous tourist hotspots. But we didn't stay in the centre for too long, because our hotel was still a 10-minute boat ride away. After a couple of hours, we've made it to our accommodation here on Koh Phi Phi Don. I'm pretty sure I managed to get sunburnt on the way over because I was out on the ferry deck basically for the whole journey, watching the views of the islands get closer and closer, so there was no regrets there. It was pretty awesome. We are staying here on Koh Phi Phi Don for the next 2 nights, and we have a private boat booked for tomorrow morning to take us over to Phi Phi Leh, where Maya Bay is. So in the meantime, let me give you a quick tour around the resort, and when you see the name of it, you'll realise that it fits the theming of this video very well indeed. Phi Phi the beach resort is in the southern tip of the island on Long Beach, so we still had to take a longboat around the coast in order to get over there, a service that the hotel provides for free. Yes, please. There are plenty of hotels and hostels right in the centre of town, but for those who want a more secluded and relaxing getaway with a world-class view, then this place is definitely a good choice. This is our resort. The rooms at the beach resort are all in this wooden bungalow style. Ours was the cheapest in the hotel, so it didn't have any view from the balcony, but it was still only a short walk from the hotel's own private stretch of sand, which not only has some really beautiful clear water, but it's also really close by to some of the hotel's really great facilities. We had access to 3 different swimming pools, as well as an on-site bar and beachfront restaurant. So the fact that it's in a slightly more remote section of the island doesn't mean that there isn't some great spots to eat and relax. But the real highlight of this hotel is what you can see from that private shoreline. Check this out. An uninterrupted view of Koh Phi Phi Leh. Stunning. So as far as locations go on Koh Phi Phi Don, it doesn't get much more convenient to get over to Maya Bay than from this beach. And like I said, our own private longtail boat would take us over there in just a few hours' time from this very beach. Good morning. Today is the day. It's just gone past 8 a.m. and we're about to get on our boat to take us across to Phi Phi Leh for a 3-hour trip around the sites, the first stop being Maya Bay. Hopefully we're leaving early enough in the morning that we're going to miss most of the crowds, but I really don't know what it's like over there at the moment, so we'll just see how it goes. And really right now I'm just very, very excited. Looks like there's a few other boats this morning that have got the same idea. Get up early, get to the bay first. We're about to get on our way now, and as you can see, Phi Phi Leh is not far away from here, so it should only take about 25 minutes to get over there. Our boat driver first took us around to the west side of the island, where we briefly pulled into a small cave, and then towards our first views of what we came to see. For the last 4 years, this distant vantage point was the only view of Maya Bay that tourists were able to get, with a line of boys stopping boats from driving any further inside. In the distance we could see that there are already a handful of people on the beach, so with that we headed towards the brand new entrance. One of the worst elements of the old Maya Bay experience was the many gas-guzzling boat engines that sat in the bay for hours on end, something that marine biologists say did some of the worst damage. So the solution was to create an entirely new way inside. So this behind me is the new pontoon they've built as an entrance to Maya Bay. You used to be able to drive the longtail boats right into the bay, but no more. You have to come behind it, climb onto the pontoon and over the hill in order to get to the beach. So we're just queuing up to get there now, but it doesn't seem too busy at all. As well as the floating pontoon, a brand new wooden walkway was built here to lead visitors across to the beach. There's also a new entrance booth where foreigners pay a 400 baht national park fee. And we were also told that we had an hour to enjoy the beach before we should leave for our next stop. Well, as you can see, it is pretty quiet here. And the cool thing about this new walkway that goes in through the back of the beach is that it's essentially replicating the point of view that Leonardo DiCaprio got in the movie. So we're Leo right now. We're going to see the beach for the first time.
They ran off the board.
Thoughts?
Amazing.
Wow, this is pretty incredible. Oh my god. I'm genuinely blown away by this. It is absolutely amazing. The water is like a swimming pool and the sand is so soft, it's like flour. Oh, this is really exceeded my expectations in every way.
Hundreds of people.
Yeah, there was all like long-tail boats out here. Crowded.
Yeah.
Thousands of people on the beach. Up to 3,500 people every day. Yeah.
What, at one time?
Yeah. Well, throughout the whole day.
Oh, so not, yeah.
But yeah,
Still.
you can imagine all like the fumes from all the petrol engines in there.
Oh my God.
But look at it now. So obviously, there's been quite a lot of change here. We've already seen the new entrance and the ban on boats in the bay, but the new rules don't end there. The most shocking for most visitors here is that you're no longer allowed to swim in the water. You can paddle up to your knees, but no further than that. Much of the damage to the coral and marine life was done by boats and swimmers, so this measure should help it continue to grow even as tourism returns. Well, it looks like we got here at the perfect time because it's definitely getting busier now. So if you can get here early, you're definitely going to get the best experience. Everyone taking their photos now. It's actually quite easy to crop out the crowds if you just step slightly into the water, but you're not allowed to step in there too far. No swimming allowed at the moment. There are some guards here making sure that people aren't going too deep. If you get too submerged, the whistle blows. So they are keeping an eye on it. According to early numbers from the reopening, the bay is seeing pretty much exactly the same amount of daily visitors as it used to. The hope being that the shorter time limit, the new entrance and the lack of swimming will mean that the recovery can continue to happen. It didn't actually feel like there were that many people down on the beach with us, but then we started walking back towards the boat. Well, we were down in the bay for about an hour. We've just come back to the pontoon and you can already see how much busier it is now. So it's a really good idea to get here early. There are crowds of people coming past us going down to the beach as well, so early is the ticket. It is actually mayhem out here, the amount of boats. It's those big speedboats that have, seems like hundreds of people on them. Crazy, so I feel so lucky to get there when we did. For many people, including myself, taking a trip across to Koh Phi Phi Leh is all about Maya Bay. But it really doesn't have to be, because this island has some other really stunning stops to visit.
Wow.
Oh my God. Just around the corner from the Maya Bay crowds, we had a quick snorkeling break before we continued our journey around the edge of the island towards a site that I think is just as stunning as that most famous bay. Pileh Lagoon is also hidden between some amazing limestone cliffs, which makes for a pretty epic reveal. Some more unbelievably blue and clear water. This is gorgeous. Reminds me of the Philippines, actually. All the lagoons at El Nido and Coron. The final stretch of the tour took us across to some more caves, and we took a look at some of the interesting rock formations before the boat turned back towards Koh Phi Phi Don. Well, we are now back at the hotel after an incredible experience over at Maya Bay and the rest of Koh Phi Phi Leh. And me and Emma were just talking down on the beach about how I don't think we would ever have come to this part of Thailand if it wasn't for the pandemic, number one, and number two, if it wasn't for the cleanup project at Maya Bay. And they have done, honestly, the most unbelievable job. What they've done there, essentially, is they've reclaimed paradise. You can stand there on that beach, looking out on that pristine water, and it's just, you know, it takes your breath away. There's no long-tail boats to get in the way of your view. There's no hordes of people that you have to battle through to get to the front if you get there early. And really, it's just a very, very special experience. And I'm so happy that we came over here after all these years. So for the rest of our time here, we're just going to chill out at the resort, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Next time, our Thailand travels continue to an island that's always been a little bit different. This is Koh Lanta.